Well, good afternoon to y'all. So today we're going to start on a couple new builds here. It's time for me to get back in that groove. I'm trying to balance all the different things I got going on over here between the repairs and whatnot. Speaking of the repairs, I got RO number 1. Now, RO number 2, 3, 4, and 5, or 2 and 3, I'm going to have to do something a little different with. They're going to be complete rebuilds after looking at what got delivered here by the FedEx man. So we're going to have to circle back to those. But I'm currently working on ROs 4 and 5, I do believe. But today, I've got to get these knocked out, these couple amps here. So I'm going to build all 3 of these at the same time, but this is the last time you're going to see them all together on the table together. We're going to go and we're going to get all the transistors put down for both of these boxes, all 3 of these boxes. This one here that I'm putting, this one is for my friend Mr. E. He's been waiting a long time for this box, so I'm going to get it banged out with these other 2. I've had a hell of a time getting cabinets and boards and sinks, but that's all part of the game. Just part of the game. This one here is for my friend Mr. T, who I've had for a long time. He sent me up a bag of Toshibas. He saw a post from 2 years ago of an amp that I built. I think I called it the Godzilla 2x8 or 2x4. Well, I built it and then I loaned it to my business partner who's since gone on to God. Well, this post, somebody was going back through some old shit on Facebook and they found a picture of the inside of this amp and they liked it and they brought it to the forefront of everybody in the group. And so he's like, oh, how much for that? And I'm like, dude, I don't want to sell it, but I'll build you one like it, but with all the fancy shit in it I do today. As you go through your building arc of learning what you're doing, I mean, you build to the best of your ability every single time. Okay? I look at the stuff as in like you guys are going to see with RO number 4 and RO number 5. There's stuff that are going on inside that box I would never do today because we've learned more. We've grown more. We've learned more. But these amps take forever for me to put them together. What people don't realize, or what some don't realize, some of you guys know this because some of you guys have been following along for a long time, that I measure every part and I put everything together with less than a 1% tolerance. I try to maintain a 1% or lower tolerance on what I'm doing with the components. And that takes forever. Each one of those components need to be measured. I try to keep the wires all exactly the same length. I try to build to the best that I can each time, right? That's just what we're supposed to do as builders. Although I do feel that some people that are in this business, they have a way of doing things and they just kind of slime line it and get it done. It's like me, I take every heat sink that I get and I polish it because I believe in starting out with a good base. We're going to get the heat sink as clean as we can so we can marry up the transistor as best that we can to the heat sink, which is really vital to the overall life and operation of the amplifier. Well, when I built this amplifier, the first one of these, this style, I used a 2x6 board and sink combo. It gave me more room inside the cabinet because I wanted to add a bunch of caps. That was back when I was adding a bunch of electrolytic capacitors to the circuit. That was back before we had LTOs and we had supercapacitors and whatnot. I would not build like this today because the caps aren't really all that necessary as long as you have an adequate electrical system to drive the device. But he wants it in this style, so I'm going to build it all out. You're going to see stuff show up inside this cabinet that normally I don't put in things. This is a regular masterclass built with a 2x4 board. This is a 2x6. We're going to build a 2x4 here. And then over here, we're going to build a 2x8. I dig this. For a lot of years, we enjoyed the luxury of being able to have like unfettered access to components. Well, that changed a couple years ago with that whole, thing that went down. I can't even say the word on YouTube anymore without it causing monetization issues. So we're just going to call it the worldwide incident. We had a little worldwide incident that took place. Well, we can't get the heatsink like what we used to. So what our friends over at ICA have come up with is a brilliant workaround. 2 pieces of heatsink that are smaller, but it allows us to have access to 2x8 cabinets. If we did not adopt the split piece of sink, we wouldn't be able to have this because we can't get that wide stock anymore. This stock and this stock is still somewhat available, but this width, for the most part, and the quantity that we're trying to buy it in is not. So this is a brilliant workaround that my friend Tony over at ICA has come up with. It works wonderfully. There's enough metal underneath the transistor. I mean, you think about it, we're going to put 4 transistors on this little piece of heatsink and 6 transistors on this piece of heatsink. There's more than enough metal mass here to do the job. So this one is just a straight out 2x8 biased, because this gentleman happens to be from the deep south, let's just say, and he utilizes sideband a lot more than the rest of us do. So we're going to, of course, give him the external auto key circuit. We're going to give him a really good sideband delay. This thing here, this guy does not care anything about sideband at all. This is straight Class C whoop ass that we're going to build here for him. And this one's a masterclass build. It does not have a home yet. But gentlemen, I say welcome and follow along. I'm going to break these out into 3 individual videos. So this is the intro for all 3. As we slowly work our way through the process of building these 3 amps. This would normally be in a normal shop, probably 1 day, maybe a day and a half worth of work. Here, because of the way I build, and all the wires have to be the same length and everything's got to be, this is like 3 days worth of work for me. Friday night, we're going to get this started. I'm going to get the boards down and get the transistors on everything. The reason we want to put down the thermal compound, then put the board on top, and then put the transistors down is I don't want any schmoo to get in these pill pockets. I want the transistors and the heatsink surface to have the cleanest, most possible mating surface that we can achieve. Once I get the transistors down, then we can take a break, go get some sleep, and then in the morning we'll actually start assembling these. So on that note, let's move forward. Gentlemen, I appreciate you all tuning in, and I want you to recognize that these people right here on Patreon are the ones that have made it possible for all of you guys to enjoy probably 20-30 minute video here, probably 30-40 minute video here, probably about an hour worth of video here. All of these videos that you're going to see with these 3 cabinets have been brought to you ad-free by these people here, which are made up of a group of you all that watch and learn. The Patreons are the shit, and I give thanks for them every day. Just like I also give thanks for ICA. I don't know if you realize this or not. If it wasn't for ICA manufacturing, there would be a large hole in the radio community as a whole. And we should all give thanks that nothing's happened with Tony this week. He's in good health, and they're still in business, and they're still willing to provide us all products, so all of us can look like rock stars on the internet as we build our boxes. Just saying, food for thought. Gentlemen, let's play. Okay. So in my hand I have $1,000 worth of parts. These 4 transistors, new, are $250 a piece today. These are a matched pair of 2879 1Ks at gains of 110. Lot number 1K. This is also brand new set, matched pair, 1K, 110 gain. I have to be very clear about what we're choosing to do here. I got to be very transparent. 5K, gains of 82, 220, 290s. So, can't get these anymore. Definitely can't get these anymore. My friend Mr. T sent me these transistors himself to put into this amp. So I want to make sure that we document this very, very thoroughly. That the parts that are going in his amp are exactly the parts he sent me. The cost of these things is just stupid. But it is what it is. I've got a whole big giant box full of these things myself that I spent 3 years accumulating. And I got the last sets to ever come out of RF parts. So, I got to make sure I keep my hands in frame here, because people claim all kinds of weird shit. Okay. All right, let's get some transistor screws going here. Whoa. Just about knocked over a big pile of stuff over here. This shop is so crammed full of stuff. It's like stuff on top of stuff on top of stuff in here, and it's getting a little overwhelming. Bring this a little bit closer, make it a little bit easier for my ass to work on it. Okay. Now we're just running this down. I'm saving my wrist the work. I'm not snugging them up, I do that by hand. The reason we do that by hand is every once in a while, let's face it, these little tiny screws, I mean, the quality of them is high, but we're not, gotta be careful, that's all I'm getting at. I don't want to twist the head off a screw or anything like that. So yeah, you're seeing me put these in with a drill, a very small one, the weakest one Ryobi makes, for a reason. I have slightly the wrong size bit in here for a reason, because if this starts to torque up too much, it knocks the bit up out of the screw. And I'm not saying that it is okay to put these in with a driver, because it is not. I'm trying to save my wrist, because I got a lot of screwing I got to do today. That's what she said. So now that we're close, now I'm tightening these up with my thumb and my this. That's it. I'm not on here reefing on them. Just need to get them tight. We don't need to get them super snug. The way it works out, it's like 8.5 to 10 inch-pounds worth of pressure is our snug tightness. It's a very small amount. Anything more than that and you're running into the chance of possibly stripping off the head of the screw, which is another giant nightmare because it's a little tiny screw. I ended up getting these titanium through-bored drill bits that you can buy used off of eBay like everywhere. So then I can go in and I can center punch the shaft, and then I can very carefully drill this out, the center of the screw. And then 1 out of every 5 times I'm able to actually get right down the middle of the screw. And then I can work the screw out after I strip the head off. If you're careful in your placement of the screws in alignment with the fin, you want your screws to come down in the gap between the fin blades and the bed. If your screw catches the edge of the drill bits are the worst, by the way. If your drill bit catches the edge of the fin and the edge of the screw bed, it'll snap the bit off every time. It'll snap the drill bit off in the heatsink. So you've got a couple options. Get out your grinder, grind the remnants of the drill bit off, right? Flip the heatsink around and use the other side of the heatsink, covered up by the board. Or go around on the back side and drill the heatsink out and then take a punch, and sometimes you can knock the drill bit out from the back side. That's your other option. And then they make an extractor for drill bits that sometimes works. It allows you to get the screw out. Your other option is to superheat the screw in the heatsink, and it'll expand, and then let it cool down, or cool it down quickly, and it'll contract, and it'll take the galling function of the aluminum and it'll pull it away from the threads, and then you can get it to come out with an extractor. Every once in a while you get that lucky. All right, done with that, moving on to this one. So our copy of the Super Megalodon 2x4 is cruising right along. These are different cap rails, this and this. This is our 12-volt bus support. We're going to put electrolytics on this as well. Got the input and the output transformers on everything, the 2-pill section and whatnot. I got to add the capacitor over here for the output. Then we're going to do a little off-stack stand like this for the output for this 2-pill section. Then we'll bring it down. Then we'll bring it down probably like right in here, and then we'll run a little piece of coax from here over to the input splitter here. It's going to look pretty cool. I think it's going to look really cool when it's done. So, moving on. Okay, so the boring, mind-numbing portion of this build for me is over. Getting to this point where we actually get to start having fun with it and stacking on all the cool parts and making it look all unique and fun and cool gets to happen now. So the next step is I go and I throw this in the cabinet, and then I start populating it. So I got to populate the cabinet, and then poof, I'm going to cover that thing with parts. It's going to be like, poof, it's going to work really cool. Just saying. Just saying. All right, let's go do the cabinet. Okay, well, we got Megalodon 2.0 all finished. It's got all its caps in it, its output tuning tube, all the high temp silicone wire. It's got all the special little gizmos in it that you can possibly put in it. Metal clads everywhere. It's just perfect. Let's turn the amp off. And let's go over here and let's take a look at our bird meters. We're going to start out in 1x, but we're going to eventually end up in 2x. We're at 14.99 volts. Okay. It's a 1,000 watt slug on the right in peak, 1,000 in whatever you want to call it, average, bird, whatever. 5 watt slug in reverse, reading the reflected power from the 10,000 watt bird dummy load. If that needle moves at all, we've got a problem. So we're going to turn that around so now it's reading forward into the dummy load. We'll put about a 1/2 watt into it. It's our base dead key. Hello. Put our 20 watts of power into it. All right, let's turn on Megalodon 2.0. 1/2 watt gets us a 100 watt carrier. Hello. Off the chart. So, about 150 watts. Hello. In the corner, pegged in the corner. Let's go up to 2x. Now, as we all know, at that big hash mark right there between the 40 and the 60. Right there. It's 1,000 and 12 and then 14 and so on. All the way to the right's 2,000 watts. So, hello, 1, 2, 1, 2. Getting about 1,380, almost 1,400 watts peak. Hello, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. So now, let's come up here and let's look at the 5-watt slug of 5-watt slug between the 955 and the Megalodon 2.0 2x4. Hello, 111. Hello, 111. Hello, 111. Hello. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, let's come back down here again before I run away. And let's just focus on the average bird meter here. Hello. Hello. About 450 watts bird. Okay. Let's disconnect the 2950 now. Give it. Okay. Son of a bitch. All right, here we go. Now what we're hooking up is the derail competition bench 29. Okay. This radio does not produce the peak power of the 2950, but it produces a whole lot more RMS. We'll go back to 1X. Hello, audio. Okay. We're starting all the way over again. Different radio, voltage is the same, and a little bit less peak power. But look at what it does to the average meter. Remember, we were seeing about 450, almost 500 bird. Hello. About 590, almost 600 watts bird. Exact same amplifier, nothing has changed. Hello. 102 amps. I want you guys to see the difference double blind. We're going to be looking at the amp gauge, and I'm going to hold it down long enough that we can also look at the peak number and the average number. So we'll jump back over to the 2950. Hello. 86 amps. Let's put this up in 2X. Hello. 450, 500 bird. Back over to the derail radio. Hello. Solid 600 bird. And it's pulling 30 something more amps over here. 85 amps to 105, 110 amps. Hello. Hello. You can knock the caps all you want. They make a big difference in smoothing out the ripple when it comes to your 12 volt DC load in between your modulation peaks. Feels good. Okay. Well, that radio's got a blower inside of it. It needs it. All right. Let's get on with the cabinet. We're going to do labels and the vinyl, and let's get the fan in here and get it doing its thing. But first I got to squirt this with a little bit of clear. So this is the OG original 2x4 that I built for myself. I was going to build this for me. I no sooner finished it, and my business partner was here, and he was getting stuff done, and his original 4-pill took a dump the day that he was supposed to pull out of here. And I said, hey man, let me go grab this amp for you. I just finished this for myself. So I gave it to him, and then he ran this as his driver into his 24 pill for like the next 4 years. Well, I finished up his 4 pill, or his driver, and I sent it back to him. Well, this thing, I totally even forgot I owned it until one day it just, when he was coming to the end of his life, he knew it was coming, and he sent it back. I'm like, dude, why'd you send me this? He goes, well, it's yours. I said, no, it's not. He goes, yes, it is. No, it's not. I said, it is. And he started cussing at me because it's just the way he was. But this amp's got a lot of sentimental value to me, anyhow. I mean, amp number 1900 on the nose. I think that played a reason into me building it. This is also when I was trying to get everybody to convert over to 4-pin mic jacks for remotes, because it's actually safer than the other connectors. But hey, what do I know, right? Anywho, so as I'm building this amplifier here, I called the customer of this year and I said, hey man, if you don't like how this amp is turning out, you just say the word and I will gladly give you this one. He goes, why would I want to do that? Well, let's look in here. It's got my input and output, or my output transformers, but the old school input transformers I used to use. It's completely built differently. This has got all the new kick-ass technology in it, right? Needless to say, the customer has decided he would like to keep the new one. So, anywho, I want to show you that this is version 1.0. This is the 2.0 version, but I just thought I'd let you guys take a quick little peek inside. Now, the whole point behind the caps, this was before lithium batteries. This was before super capacitors. This was before super high output cheap alternators. The idea behind all the caps was to help try and stabilize the voltage swing that was taking place. There's this huge, every time you modulate, so you throw your carrier, you have your base load, then you modulate and you have this huge voltage spike that takes place. Well, with the birth of the lithium batteries, we have figured out that the lithium batteries have such an outrush capability that they're almost equal to a supercapacitor. So it made the supercapacitor completely not worth it, right? Made the supercapacitor go the way of the dodo bird. Well, before we had the supercapacitor and we had lithium batteries that were not fire starters, the best that we could do is really pack the cabinet full of caps. Well, I did this. I'm proud. Needless to say, is what it is. That's the whole point behind the caps. I think it helps a little bit even at this scale, even though we have these new fadangled batteries and new super caps. That's why in my truck I did a mixture of the lithium batteries and super caps plus big alternators. Nothing beats generation. Nothing. You can either have a big cap bank, a big battery bank, or you can have a whole bunch of alternator. Well, I went with a whole bunch of alternator, big lithium battery bank, and big cap bank. You know, 1,000, 1,500, 2,000 farads worth of capacitor bank and 4 batteries, lithiums. So, over 2,000 amps cold and hot on a hot summer's day. 1,200 amps worth of generation, so is what it is. Anywho, gentlemen, I appreciate you tuning in and following along. Big shout out to the Patreons. They're the gas pedal for the entire talk show over here, per se. They're the reasons that you guys have been able to watch this whole video with no commercials, unless you're running ad blocker like everybody else, or you're actually paying for the YouTube subscription. I think it's hilarious. I did that whole video where I was talking about Okay, the Patreons help us have a better channel and better environment. And everybody's like, dude, you never heard about ad blocker? Like, my phone blew up the next day. Dude, you need to get ad blocker. I'm like, I have ad blocker, y'all. Just chuckle. Big shout out to XS, Siglant, MechMan, Bird, Coaxial Dynamics, and our friends over at Penta. Oh yeah, they finally sent me my Penta sticker. I need to go get it at some point and then figure out where I'm going to hide it. I might have to move the "this will hurt the whole time while dying" sticker. I don't know. We'll see. Gentlemen, thank you. I appreciate you all tuning in for this little talk show, this little adventure. Megalodon 2.0 completed. Oh, and by the way, just for the record, this has got $1,000 worth of brand new Toshibas in it. It's got $350 or $400 worth of 2290s in it, Toshibas, plus all the cabinet, the board, the heatsink, and all the other parts. If you think about having one of these made for yourself, you're going to be in the area of $2,500. Just keep that in mind. Food for thought. Gentlemen, I'll see you. Click, click.